Hey guys, welcome back. This is Captain Orlando Muniz with Nomad Fishing Charters, and today I'm going to be covering a subject that is often overlooked, which is how do you plan your fishing trip. I'm not talking about preparation or prepping for a trip. I'm talking about actually planning and strategizing and coming up with a game plan. Stay tuned. Before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that the channel is growing and we're gaining subscribers by the day. So thank all of you that have been subscribing and liking and commenting on the videos. Hopefully we can keep the momentum going and make the channel stronger and stronger. We're going to begin by covering three very specific topics. Number one is the season or time of year. Number two is the weather and interpreting the weather. And number three is information. You could never have enough information. With any fishing trip, your first consideration should be the time of year or season. For example, we all know that mahi tend to run better in the summer, sailfish in the winter, and we can go on and on. But we know that certain fish prefer certain types of weather, types of temperatures, sea temperatures, that type of thing. So you always want to consider the season. You never want to target a fish during the wrong season or when it's very unlikely that you will encounter that fish. You always want to kind of chase what's available and increase your odds or improve your odds. So always keep that in mind. For example, in the summer, if it's slick, calm conditions, it might not be a bad idea to go chasing after dolphin. If you've got a little bit of wind, right now we're in early June, we've had some winds, so it might be a better idea to stay in on the edge, put up the kite to try to catch some blackfin tuna, maybe some large kings, or even some bottom fish like mutton snapper or grouper. Those are also good choices. Keep in mind that the season and the weather kind of overlap, so we have to pay attention to the season, but we also have to look at the weather, which is the next thing I'm going to be speaking about. Alright, so let's say you know what time of the year it is, you know what's possible, and now you're getting ready to plan your trip. Your next step is to look at and analyze the weather. And always, always, always do yourself a favor. Always anticipate that the weather is going to be slightly different from what's forecast. For example, if the forecast is for 5 to 10 mile an hour winds, there's a good chance you could wake up to 15, 20 mile an hour winds. So always be ready to make adjustments on the fly. Okay, that's the difference between your top level fishermen and your just regular weekend warriors, is being able to make adjustments. And that's really what helps you put more fish in the boat on a consistent basis, is being able to read conditions and make adjustments. We're going to get into that a little bit more here in the next segment. But you definitely want to pay attention to the weather, especially the winds. The winds have a major impact. We all know that the mahi fishing usually shuts off on a west wind. So if you get a west wind, you might not want to do that. So always pay attention not only to how much wind, but what direction it's coming in. We know that sailfish can go off on a north wind. The bite can go off, especially if you have a good smoking current in blue water. We know that other fish like kingfish and some bottom fish like light north current. If you plan to anchor, maybe do some bottom fish, that light north current is good. We're going to get more into stuff like that, but right now we're just talking about weather, and the weather is a key factor. So always know what's going on with the weather and how the weather is changing and how could it affect your fishing. Now for the last little piece of these three parts, we're going to get into information, which is probably the most important piece of intel that you need. In the fishing game, nothing has changed more than the availability and the abundance of information. I still remember vividly when I started fishing, calling friends, having to actually go to a phone on a wall, pick it up, look at my phone book, and look up a friend's number and call them up and try to get some information. And sometimes you got information, sometimes you didn't. Most of the time you didn't. Or going to the newspaper and reading the Thursday paper to get a fishing report that was probably a few days old. It probably wasn't worth much. Today, thanks to the internet and social media, we have an abundance of information. We have both avid fishermen and seasoned captains that are posting their fishing reports daily, sometimes hourly, Sometimes you could actually get live reports and see what's actually going on the water before you go out. And nothing is more valuable than that information. It gives you a good idea of what people are catching and what you can expect to catch when you head out. My advice to any angler is to take the time and follow your favorite captain, or maybe you have friends that are very avid fishermen and are on social media. Make it a point to connect with them on social media and follow their page. And you could actually go a night or 2 nights before you go out and start looking at the reports during the week and get an idea, a feel for what's being caught and what you could expect. I usually like to look at reports, but I also kind of tie them into the weather. Everything kind of merges together. So I think about the season, I think about those reports I'm seeing, and then I'm looking at the weather. Well, if I know that the blackfin tuna bite, per se, was really good Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and the weather conditions are pretty much the same on Saturday, then there's a good chance they're still going to bite on Saturday. Same thing is true if the weather changes suddenly. Let's say the bite's real good on Wednesday and Thursday, but then Friday the weather shifts. Well, chances are that bite's going to just switch to something else. You may have to go target something else or make some other adjustments. So you got to pay close attention not only to the reports, but also to how the weather is changing. Remember, all of this works together and merges together into one big piece of information that you have to decipher and you have to figure out. Well, now that we know some of the things we can do prior to going fishing to prepare, let's talk about some of the things you can actually pay attention to or try to figure out as you're going out to the fishing grounds. What kind of things should you be looking for? Well, number one, this is just me personally, when I get to the dock, first thing I notice is what's the weather doing? What's the latest piece of information? If you live from Miami south of the Keys, we have the buoy data, which gives you up to the minute information as far as winds. And that's a good source of accurate information. So I always like to see what the weather is doing exactly when I'm about to leave the dock. The other thing I like to pay attention to on the ride out is current. I'm always looking for current. I like to see also what kind of water we have. If the water's real clear, if the water's really dirty, really clean. If the current is no current, light current, smoking current, maybe even a south current. All of these factors play a part in the decision making. So, for example, let's say you have a ripping current and you have some north wind. You may want to just stay in on the edge and live bait, maybe catch sails, kings, tunas, maybe a mahi. Those are the types of fish you're going to encounter, especially if you have clean blue water. If you have something like a light north current, maybe the water's not so clean, that might be a good day to anchor up and target snapper, yellowtail, muttons, grouper, stuff like that. If you got a slick, calm day with no current, then you might want to run offshore, look for some mahi, especially if they've been around, or you may want to go drop for golden tilefish, gray tiles. You may want to drop for a vermilion snapper or yellow eye snapper. Those are just some of the things you can do under those conditions. So again, you're going to take all the information that you collected prior to fishing and then kind of merge that with the information you get once you get out to the fishing grounds, because those are real-time conditions, and that's where you have to make your adjustments. Once you know what you're looking for and how to look for it, the last piece of the puzzle comes with experience, and you're only going to gain that by spending time on the water. So remember, check your weather, get your information, know what time of the year it is, and do your homework on the way out. Pay attention, and you should become a better fisherman with time. Again, you're going to make mistakes, but the key is to learn from those mistakes. Till next time, tight lines. This is Captain Muniz with Nomad Fishing. Thanks again.